Welcome back to Moonlight Mate Stories, where the moonlight whispers tales of love, power, and destiny. Tonight's story will pull you into a world where being chosen isn't always a blessing, and where love can be both a bond and a curse. If you love stories that awaken your heart and send chills down your spine, make sure you subscribe, tap the bell icon, and join our growing pack. Now, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and step into the shadows of the Dark Moon tribe. The forest was breathing like a living thing, gasping, trembling, shivering with every beat of the storm. Rain hammered against the earth, relentless, as if the heavens themselves were trying to wash away the sins of the night. And through that chaos, she ran. Lyra didn't look back. She couldn't. Behind her, the howls were getting closer, raw, guttural, angry. Not the kind of sound you forget, not the kind that only hunts your body, but the kind that hunts your soul. Her bare feet pounded against the mud, splashing through puddles of moonlit water that reflected the blood on her hands. Every step burned like fire. Every breath tore at her throat. She could taste iron. Fear mixed with rain. The forest closed in around her, dark branches tearing at her clothes, ripping through her skin like claws that didn't want her to escape. The blood moon hung low above the trees, swollen, red, watching. It painted everything in shades of crimson, as though the night itself was bleeding. Lyra's heart was racing too fast to keep up with her thoughts. 1 second she was running, the next, her mind flooded with flashes. Faces she once loved, voices that once whispered her name in loyalty. And then, the fire, the trial, the mark. That mark, glowing faintly through her torn sleeve now, was her curse. 3 claw-like streaks, etched deep into her skin, still pulsing with faint silver light. Each throb matched the beat of her heart, each shimmer reminding her that she was no longer one of them. The mark of the dark moon, the mark of betrayal, the mark of power. She stumbled over a root hidden beneath wet leaves, crashing hard against the ground. The impact stole her breath. For a moment, she lay there, cheek pressed against the mud, rain soaking into her hair. Her body screamed for her to stop, but stopping meant death. And she'd already died once, the night her pack turned against her. She pushed herself up, trembling, clutching her side where the claw marks burned hottest. The scent of her own blood filled the air, sharp, metallic, irresistible to the beast that hunted her. Somewhere behind her, a low growl rolled through the thunder. She froze. That sound, she knew it. She'd grown up hearing it at training grounds, during hunts, echoing through the trees on full moons. Her alpha's call. But it wasn't calling for her anymore. It was calling after her. Lyra bit down on her lip to stop herself from crying out. She couldn't afford weakness. Not here. Not now. The forest seemed to hold its breath with her. Even the storm quieted for a heartbeat, as if the whole world was listening. And then, the whispers began. Soft at first, almost human, almost kind. Lyra. She spun around, eyes wide. No one was there. Only the forest, dripping and dark. The trees loomed like silent witnesses, their bark streaked with silver from the moonlight. Lyra! The whisper came again, closer now, brushing against her ear like a ghost's breath. She stumbled back, heart pounding. No, she gasped. Not again. You're not real. The whisper turned into a sigh. The sigh into a voice. You can't run from what you are. Her pulse spiked. Her hand trembled as she lifted it, staring at the faint glow of the mark. The silver lines pulsed brighter, alive, almost like something inside her was waking up. The pain that followed was unbearable. Searing through her veins like molten light, she screamed, but the storm swallowed her voice. Then, silence. Only the rain falling on her trembling hands. Her body gave way. She collapsed to her knees beside a fallen log, gasping for air that didn't come easily. She pressed her palm against her wound, feeling warmth leak through her fingers. She was losing too much blood, too much time, too much of herself. "Why me?" she whispered. "Why this mark? What did I do?" The forest didn't answer, not with words, but the wind picked up again, swirling around her like it wanted to hold her. And in the middle of that storm, for the briefest second, the rain stopped touching her skin. It was as if the air itself had formed a shield around her. Her tears mixed with the rain as she stared down into a puddle at her reflection. Her face was pale, streaked with mud and blood, hair plastered to her cheeks. But her eyes glowed silver. The same silver as the mark. The same silver as the prophecy she was never meant to fulfill. She blinked, and it faded, replaced by the hollow, terrified face of a girl who'd lost everything. A girl who didn't want to be chosen, a girl who just wanted to be free. The thunder cracked again, louder this time, shaking the ground beneath her, and with it came a new sound, not the howl of wolves, not the whisper of spirits, but footsteps, heavy, deliberate, getting closer. She froze, her heart in her throat. The scent hit her next, strong, dark, commanding. The kind of scent that crawls under your skin and makes your wolf stir even when you don't want it to. He was near, and every part of her, human and not, felt it. Lightning flashed across the sky, painting the forest in white light for just a heartbeat. That's when she saw him. A figure emerging from the shadows. Tall, broad shoulders, eyes that gleamed like the edge of a blade. Rain slid down his jawline, dripping from his black hair. He moved like the storm obeyed him, every step measured, unhurried, confident. Her breath caught. She knew that face. Not from her memories, but from the stories whispered in the dark. The alpha of the Dark Moon tribe. Cain, the man who'd been hunting her, the man her mark belonged to. She tried to move, to run again, but her body refused. Her strength was gone. Her knees buckled, and she hit the ground hard. The pain shot through her like lightning. She bit back a sob, pressing her forehead into the wet earth. When he finally spoke, his voice cut through the storm like thunder. "I told you," he said softly, "you can't run from what you are." Her breath trembled. The words weren't cruel. They were calm, almost sad. He stepped closer, boots sinking into the mud beside her. Lyra wanted to scream at him, to curse him, to fight. But all that came out was a broken whisper. "Then what am I?" Cain knelt beside her, his shadow swallowing hers. For a moment he didn't answer. He just looked at her, the mud, the blood, the fear. And then his gaze shifted to her arm. The mark pulsed again, faintly silver beneath the torn sleeve. His eyes darkened. "You're the reason the prophecy still breathes," he murmured. "And that makes you both our hope and our curse." The forest around them seemed to shudder at his words. Somewhere in the distance, another howl echoed, low, mournful. Lyra's eyelids fluttered, exhaustion pulling her under. The last thing she saw before everything went black was the alpha's hand reaching out, catching her just before she fell face first into the mud. The storm raged on above them, wild and merciless. But beneath it, something ancient had just awakened, something neither of them could control. If your heart is already racing, if you can feel the pull of the moon, don't forget to hit subscribe, because the night is just beginning. And under the dark moon, no one runs forever. The storm had quieted, but the forest still breathed with tension, like a living thing that had just watched something sacred break. The rain softened to a whisper, dripping from the tips of the black pines, running down the curve of her cheek. Lyra could barely hold her eyes open. Every muscle in her body trembled with exhaustion and pain. The mark on her skin pulsed, with a dull, aching glow. Silver bleeding through her torn sleeve, spreading warmth and cold all at once. Her vision blurred. She could taste blood. Her breath came in short, uneven pulls, the kind that made her ribs ache. For a moment, she thought the forest was spinning. The ground tilted beneath her, the shadows stretching, shifting, until one of them detached itself from the darkness, tall, broad, and silent as night itself. He stepped out of the storm. The first thing noticed was his scent, deep, musky, threaded with the wildness of pine and smoke. It wasn't human, it was heavier, older, like the earth after lightning has struck it. His presence filled the clearing before his voice ever reached her, and when he spoke, it was low, rough, like thunder rolling through a canyon. He said her name, not the one her pack called her, not the name they spat at her during the trial. No, the name she hadn't heard since she was a child, the name only her mother had whispered when the moon was full. Her breath caught. Her heart stuttered once, hard, like it had been punched from inside her chest. No one knew that name. No one alive should. She tried to stand, but her knees buckled. He moved faster than sight, closing the distance in a breath. His hands caught her, one around her arm, one at her waist. She gasped. The moment his skin touched hers, the mark flared. The pain vanished. In its place, something hotter, deeper, roared awake beneath her skin. She didn't want to feel it. I didn't want to recognize it, but her wolf did. Her wolf knew him. For a second, the world stilled. The rain stopped mid-air. The wind held its breath. The forest listened. His eyes, golden, sharp, almost luminous, searched hers, and something ancient passed between them. Recognition, fear, hunger, destiny. None of it made sense, but it didn't have to. Not yet. He smelled of danger, of power so absolute it made her instincts tremble. Yet behind that strength was something else, grief, maybe, or guilt, the kind that never leaves a man's bones. She wanted to pull away, to demand who he was and how he knew her name, but her voice failed. Her throat was dry, the words lost somewhere between pain and disbelief. His grip tightened, not enough to hurt, but enough to ground her. "You shouldn't be here." The words weren't a threat, they were a warning, one that carried the weight of loss. Her pulse quickened. She didn't trust him. She couldn't. Every lesson she'd ever learned screamed at her to run. But she couldn't move. His voice, the deep, steady rhythm of it, wrapped around her like warmth after frost. He looked down at her wound, at the glowing mark on her arm, and his jaw tensed. His own sleeve slipped back, revealing the same mark, etched in mirrored lines of silver light. The air crackled. The two marks pulsed in unison, glowing brighter, as if recognizing each other. She flinched. What is this?" she whispered, but the words never left her mouth. The mark spoke for her. It pulsed once more, harder, sending a surge of energy up her arm. He felt it too. His body stiffened. His breath hitched for just a second, the only sign of surprise he'd ever allow. It was the kind of connection that defied logic. Primal, magnetic, terrifyingly intimate. And for one wild heartbeat, Lyra swore she felt his memories rush through her mind. Flashes of war, of wolves kneeling under blood moons, of a woman with her face dying in his arms. The vision was gone before she could catch her breath. His gaze darkened. "They'll kill you if they find you." The way he said it, quiet, certain, told her he wasn't guessing. He knew, and she didn't have the strength to argue. He straightened slowly, still holding her, as if deciding whether to let her go or drag her into his shadow. For a moment, she thought he would disappear again into the mist, but instead, he tilted his head toward the storm, listening. A distant howl rose from beyond the ridge. Low, long, familiar. Her heart clenched, her pack. They were still hunting her, and suddenly, the ache in her chest wasn't fear. It was betrayal, raw and burning. She remembered their faces at the trial, the sneers, the judgment, the alpha's cold voice when he pronounced her guilty. Her crime, existing, being born different. She didn't know if this man was her savior or her executioner. But she knew one thing. She wasn't ready to die yet. She tried to pull away again, her hand pressing weakly against his chest. He didn't move. His heartbeat was slow, steady, unshakable. the rhythm of a predator who never needed to chase, because everything came to him eventually. "Why do you care?" she finally breathed, her voice breaking with exhaustion and defiance. The silence that followed was unbearable. The forest seemed to lean closer, waiting for his answer. Then, with a quiet exhale, he said, "Because your blood carries the same curse as mine." The words struck like lightning. The air between them shifted, thicker now, humming with secrets too heavy for the rain to wash away. He didn't explain. He didn't have to. The look in his eyes, that mix of pain and inevitability, told her everything she wasn't ready to hear. And though every instinct screamed for her to run, her body disobeyed. She stood frozen under his gaze, trembling not from fear, but from something far more dangerous, recognition. The thunder rolled again, distant but growing closer. The blood moon had begun to fade behind the clouds, its light dying like the last breath of a promise. He reached for her again, his hand brushing the wet strands of hair from her face. The touch was careful, almost reverent. "You've been running long enough," he murmured. And before she could protest, he stepped closer, his warmth bleeding into her cold skin. For the first time since the night began, Lyra didn't feel alone. For the first time, she wondered if the mark that cursed her might also be her only chance to survive. The forest shifted around them, the storm's breath softening into fog. Somewhere in the distance, another howl split the silence. Sharper, closer. Her pack had found her trail. Kane's jaw flexed. He looked toward the sound, then back at her, and in that moment, she saw the conflict burning in him. Duty versus desire. Power versus mercy. He made his choice in silence. He scooped her into his arms as if she weighed nothing at all, turned toward the darkness, and vanished into it, one heartbeat before the hunters arrived. The forest swallowed their scent. The rain returned. The blood moon bled its last light across the trees. And as the night carried them deeper into the unknown, the mark on their arms glowed brighter, like two hearts remembering they had once been one. If your heart is still racing, if you can still feel the storm between them, don't forget to hit subscribe, because this night is far from over, and the Alpha's secret has only just begun to surface. The night had long surrendered to silence, but the forest never truly slept. Somewhere beyond the ridge, a wolf howled, not in triumph or in hunger, but in mourning. Lyra stirred. The sound reached her even through the fog of exhaustion. Her body lay still, wrapped in a blanket that smelled faintly of moss, smoke, and him. Beneath it, her pulse matched the rhythm of a soft, steady heartbeat. Not her own, but another's, deep and grounding, somewhere close. For a moment, she thought she was dead. Then the pain returned, a slow, throbbing reminder that she was still painfully alive. She opened her eyes to shadows dancing against the walls of a cavern. The air was damp and cool, carrying the scent of earth and old stone. A faint blue light pulsed from small bowls scattered around the space, herbs glowing faintly, their smoke curling upward, like soft spirits whispering secrets to the dark. And there he was, Kane. He sat near the fire, his silhouette sharp against the flicker of light. His bare arms were marked with scars that caught the glow like threads of memory. The mark on his forearm shimmered, faint but alive, its rhythm perfectly in sync with hers. For a while, she only watched him. The stillness between them was a fragile thing, not silence born of peace, but the kind that comes before truth is spoken. He was tending to something in his hands, crushing herbs, mixing them with water, the motion slow and deliberate. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes, golden and distant, carried a sadness she didn't yet understand. When he turned toward her, their gazes locked. The air thickened again, as if even the flames bowed to whatever unspoken force bound them. He didn't speak, not yet. He only came closer, the sound of his footsteps deep and quiet, until he knelt beside her. The scent of the herbs filled her nose, sharp, medicinal, glowing faintly blue in his hands. He dipped a cloth into the mixture and pressed it against the wound at her side. The pain was instant, sharp, but then it eased, replaced by a cool wave that spread through her veins like gentle firelight. She didn't flinch. She couldn't. His touch was careful, reverent almost, as though he was afraid she might shatter. The mark on her arm pulsed again, answering him. For the first time, she saw it clearly. The pattern wasn't random. It was a sigil, ancient, intricate, carved into her very blood. And now that she was still enough to see it, she realized the lines weren't just silver. They were alive, the same power that had ruined her life. Her throat tightened, memories stirred, buried deep, desperate to stay forgotten. She tried to push them away, but memories have teeth, and they bite when ignored. The sound of rain, the echo of laughter that wasn't kind, voices, sharp, cruel, and familiar, the scent of smoke and fur. The circle of her pack gathered under the moonlight, faces glowing with judgment. She remembered that night, the ritual of awakening. Every young wolf had to pass through it. It was supposed to be sacred, a moment of unity. But for her, it became a curse. They had told her to stand in the center of the clearing. The moon hung heavy, round and bright, silver spilling across her skin. Her heart had pounded with hope. Maybe this time, they'd see her as one of them. The elder chanted the words, old and rhythmic. The others watched. Then the pain began. At first, it was small, a spark beneath her ribs. Then it grew, spreading, crawling under her skin like fire searching for air. Her body convulsed. The moon above her bled red, and before she could even scream, the mark burned into her arm. That same silver light that now tied her to Cain. The pack gasped. The elder stepped back. Whispers broke the circle. Words like cursed, wrong, and unnatural. Someone shouted that the moon had rejected her. Another claimed the mark was from the dark tribes, the ones who served the cursed Alpha line. And then, his face, her mate, the one chosen for her since birth. His name was Reese. His eyes had once been kind, but that night they were cold as stone. He stood before her and said the words that broke her. No alpha mates with a monster. He tore the mark of bond from his wrist, a gesture that ripped through her chest like claws. The pack roared with approval. She remembered the look on her mother's face. Silent, trembling, unable to speak. And the elder's voice, booming through the night. Let her be cast out. The curses have no place under the moon. They branded her with silver. They left her bleeding in the dirt. And when the dawn came, she ran. Through forest and storm, through hunger and cold, until her body forgot what warmth felt like. She hadn't stopped running since. The memory faded as quickly as it came, leaving her trembling, sweat cold on her skin. The cave around her seemed to shrink. The air thickened with the scent of her fear, her shame, her grief. Cain's hand paused against her wound. He didn't speak, but something in his eyes changed, softer now, quieter. He knew. Somehow, he knew. He finished tending to her side, wringing the cloth dry. The blue glow faded slowly, leaving behind faint silver threads that melted into her skin. Her voice broke the silence. Why help me? He didn't look at her at first. Her carrying goat has fixed on the dying flames. When he finally spoke, his tone was low, the kind of voice that carried truths meant to stay buried. Because I've seen the prophecy. He turned to her then, and your face was in it. The words hit harder than the storm ever could. Prophecy. The word echoed in her mind, dragging up the oldest whispers, stories the elders used to tell to scare pups into obedience. Tales of the blood moon and the child marked in silver. A curse born to destroy alphas and save them all. She had never believed in it, until now. Her breath trembled. What prophecy? He studied her, as though searching for something only he could see. The light caught his eyes, that same gold flicker that seemed older than this world. They called it the moon's undoing, he said finally. A story of how the line of alphas would end, not by war or betrayal, but by one born of both light and shadow. A wolf who carries the mark of two worlds. His gaze lingered on her arm. The cursed child, she whispered. He nodded once. The one everyone fears, because no one understands what she really is. The fire cracked softly between them. For a long time, neither spoke. The air around them thickened with unspoken questions. Why her? Why now? Why him? But beneath it all, something else pulsed. Recognition. Like two pieces of the same soul, broken long ago, now finding each other again in the dark. She wanted to hate him for knowing more about her than she did, but instead, all she felt was the unbearable weight of being seen, truly seen, for the first time in her life. He rose, towering above her, his shadow spilling across the stone like smoke. Rest, he said quietly. You'll need strength for what's coming. She wanted to ask what that meant, but her eyes grew heavy, her body sinking into the blanket. The herb's warmth seeped deeper into her veins. The mark on her arm pulsed once more, softer this time, not a warning, but a promise. And as sleep pulled her under, she heard his voice one last time, low and distant. They'll come for you, Lyra. The ones who cast you out, the ones who think you're the end. A pause, then softer, but they've forgotten one thing. The flames dimmed, the wind sighed through the cave. The end is only the beginning. The prophecy has been spoken, the cursed child has been found, and the Alpha who swore never to love again has already broken his vow. If your heart's still trembling from her story, don't forget to subscribe, because the next chapter will burn hotter, darker, and deeper than anything you've heard before. The morning came slow, creeping through the cracks of the mountain like it feared what it might find inside. Lyra stirred before the sun broke through the mist, her body aching from sleep that felt too deep, too heavy. The kind that wasn't rest, but surrender. The fire from the night before had burned down to ash, faint ribbons of smoke curling through the air, like whispers of dreams that refused to fade. Cain was gone. For a moment, panic spiked through her chest, sharp, immediate, alive. The cave around her felt bigger without him in it, colder somehow. But before the fear could settle, she heard the sound. Distant, steady, deliberate. Footsteps. She turned. He emerged from the shadows, his presence filling the space before his voice did. In his hands, a bundle wrapped in dark cloth. His eyes met hers, quiet but commanding. Eat, he said, setting it beside her. The scent hit her first. Smoked meat, herbs. The faint trace of something sweet. Her stomach tightened with hunger she hadn't allowed herself to feel in days. She didn't thank him. The words wouldn't come. Gratitude still felt like a weakness she couldn't afford. He didn't expect it. He only waited until she finished, then motioned for her to follow. The air outside the cave was sharp with cold. The forest stretched endlessly in every direction. Tall pines heavy with mist, roots curling like ancient veins through the earth. Far above them, cliffs rose like walls carved by gods. The dark moon cliffs. Lyra had heard of them as a child, the place where spirits walked and wolves dared not howl. Legend said the cliffs held a shrine older than the tribes themselves, a place where the moon once touched the earth. And now, she was standing at the edge of that legend. Cain walked ahead silent, his cloak rippling with the wind. Every step he took seemed to know exactly where it belonged, like the land itself bent to his will. Lyra followed, her pulse quickening as the trail narrowed and the air grew heavier, thick with a strange hum, a vibration deep in the bones, as though the mountain breathed. They descended a narrow path, hidden behind a curtain of vines. The deeper they went, the dimmer the light became, until only faint silver strands filtered through cracks in the stone. Then, without warning, the path opened into a vast chamber. The shrine. It wasn't built. It was grown. The walls weren't smooth but alive, pulsing faintly with veins of silver light. Carvings lined every surface, wolves, moons, flames, and eyes that seemed to follow her wherever she moved. At the center of the shrine stood a stone altar, its surface cracked but still humming with ancient power. The air shimmered around it, rippling faintly like heat over fire. Lyra froze. Her body reacted before her mind could. The mark on her arm flared, not faintly this time, but fiercely, like molten silver beneath her skin. She gasped, clutching it. Cain turned sharply. His gaze dropped to the mark, then to the altar. His voice was low, almost reverent. "It's answering you." Lyra shook her head, stepping back. "No, it's burning." "It's awakening," he said, his tone steady. "This place has waited for you longer than any of us have lived." She looked around, eyes wide, trying to understand what she was feeling. A pull, deep and magnetic, as if invisible threads tied her heartbeat to the mountain's pulse. The carvings on the wall began to glow, one by one. Silver lines spreading outward, connecting symbols, wolves bowing beneath a blood-red moon, flames rising from the earth, a woman standing alone at the center, her eyes alight with silver fire. Her throat tightened. That woman looked exactly like her. Cain stepped closer to the altar. His expression was unreadable, but his voice softened, carrying the weight of stories passed down in secret. "They called her the Marked One," he said, "the bridge between worlds, neither Alpha nor Omega, born under a broken moon, carrying the flame of both creation and ruin." His gaze flicked to her, steady and knowing. "When the blood moon rises over the Black Forest, the Marked One will awaken the flame that decides the fate of all tribes." Lyra's heart hammered. Every word sank into her like a blade. The flame that decides the fate of all tribes. Her body trembled. "You're saying that's me?" Cain didn't answer right away. He stepped closer, the shadows bending around him, as if the mountain itself acknowledged his presence. "The mark on your arm," he said quietly. "The night it burned onto you. That was the first blood moon in a century. It wasn't a curse, Lyra. It was a calling." She turned away, her breath quick, uneven. The air felt too heavy, too bright. "No, you don't understand. That mark destroyed my life, my pack. They feared what they didn't understand." She glared at him. "They were right to fear it. Every time I feel it, something inside me moves, something I can't control." He took another step toward her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating off his skin. "Control isn't given," he said. "It's taken." His voice was steady, but his eyes, there was something in them. Not dominance, not pity. Recognition. The mountain trembled softly. The light around the altar flared again, brighter this time. The carvings pulsed in rhythm with Lyra's heartbeat. The mark on her arm seared hotter until it hurt to breathe. She stumbled forward, catching herself against the stone. The moment her hand touched it, the entire chamber erupted in light. A sound filled the air, not thunder, not wind. Something older. A language she didn't know yet somehow understood. Whispers. Dozens of them. Hundreds. They called her name. Lyra. Lyra of the flame. Lyra of the mark. The silver lines on the wall twisted, shifting shape. Now the woman in the carving was no longer standing. She was changing. Her form lengthened, fur sprouting along her arms, her face fierce and wild. The first shifter. The energy hit Lyra like a wave. Her knees buckled. Visions filled her mind. Flashes of the past, of the beginning. A world where wolves walked as gods. Tribes united under a single moon. A war that tore them apart. And at the center of it all, a woman who bore the same mark she carried now. Lyra screamed. The mark blazed white-hot, power flooding through her veins, so intense it felt like she was burning from the inside out. The light consumed the chamber, blinding and endless. Cain reached her, grabbing her shoulders. His voice cut through the storm of sound and light. "Lyra, listen to me." But she couldn't hear him, not over the roar of her blood, not over the echoes of something ancient rising from deep within her. The mountain shook, stones cracked, the air burned silver, and then, silence, everything stopped. The light faded slowly. Lyra fell to her knees, gasping for breath. The mark still glowed, but softer now, like embers after a fire. Around her, the shrine was alive, symbols shimmering faintly, the altar humming with quiet power. Cain knelt beside her. "You saw it, didn't you?" Her eyes lifted to meet his. "I saw everything." "What did it show you?" Her lips trembled. "A woman, like me, but not. She tried to stop something, a war, but the others called her the Destroyer." Cain's jaw tightened. The prophecy always said the marked one's flame could save us or destroy us. No one ever knew which. Lyra's gaze drifted to the glowing carvings. "Maybe it's not the flame that decides," she whispered. "Maybe it's the one who holds it." He looked at her then, really looked, as though he was seeing not just the girl before him, but everything she was becoming. And for the first time, she didn't see fear in his eyes, only belief. Still, the weight of it crushed her. The idea that her blood, her pain, her curse, was part of something vast and ancient, something that could change everything, or end it all. She whispered, almost to herself, "I don't want this." Cain's voice was soft, steady, carrying the kind of truth that cuts deep. Fate never asked what we wanted. The air was still. Somewhere deep beneath them, the mountain sighed, ancient, knowing, alive. Lyra stared at her hand, still faintly glowing where she'd touched the altar. The warmth there was no longer pain. It was pulse, a bond, a beginning. And as the silver light faded into the stone, the prophecy whispered again, softer this time, more intimate, almost inside her mind. "The flame is awake. The world will tremble." The wind howled through the cliffs outside, carrying the sound of wolves in the distance. Not mourning this time, but calling. Lyra lifted her head. Her silver eyes glinted in the light. Something inside her had changed. The hunted Omega was gone. And in her place, something ancient stirred. The prophecy has awakened. The marked flame has stirred beneath the mountain. And somewhere in the dark, those who once cursed her have felt the tremor of her return. If your heart's racing and your breath's caught between fear and wonder, don't forget to subscribe to Moonlight Mate Stories. Because the night isn't done yet. The moon still has secrets to tell. The moon rose sharp and white above the ridges that night, slicing through clouds like a blade. Lyra hadn't spoken since the shrine. The world felt too loud now. Every whisper of wind, every heartbeat, every flicker of flame. The mark on her arm pulsed softly beneath her skin, no longer a brand, but a living ember. Cain walked beside her, silent. The forest path back to the dark moon stronghold wound through twisted roots and the ghostlight of fireflies. Each step seemed to echo in the tension that hung between them. Neither spoke of what had happened beneath the mountain, but both knew the truth. The prophecy was no longer a myth. It had chosen her, and the world was about to feel it. By the time they reached the tribe's outer gates, the night air was thick with unease. Guards stiffened when they saw her. Their eyes darted to the faint glow on her arm, to the silver threading her irises now. The whispers began before the gates even opened. The marked one, the omen. The destroyer was reborn. Cain's voice cut through the murmurs. "She's under my protection." But protection was a fragile thing when fear had already spread like wildfire. Inside the dark Moon Council hall, torches burned low. 5 elders waited in silence around a stone table carved with lunar sigils. At the center of the table, a symbol Lyra recognized now, carved deep into the stone, a flame beneath a crescent moon. The same flame that burned in her blood. Cain bowed his head slightly, though his tone was clipped. "She carries the mark of the prophecy. The shrine itself responded to her. You all know what that means." The eldest of the council, a woman with iron-grey hair and eyes that saw too much, leaned forward. "It means danger, Alpha. The prophecy was never a promise. It was a warning." Lyra's voice was steady but low. "You're afraid of me." The woman's gaze didn't waver. "We are afraid of what you could become." Something in Lyra twisted, the same mixture of shame and fury that had chased her since the night her own pack cast her out. She clenched her fists. "You think fear will save you?" Kane's hand brushed hers under the table. Subtle, grounding. But she felt the tremor in his touch. Even he wasn't certain what she could do anymore. The council murmured, their words sharp and circling like wolves. "The flame returns only to consume. It cannot be controlled. End it now before it ends us all." Kane's voice hardened. "She's not a threat. She's a survivor. You saw what she did at the shrine. She didn't destroy. She awakened. That power could protect us if the rival packs attack again." The iron-haired elder rose. "Or destroy us from within. We will not gamble the tribe's fate on a prophecy we barely understand." Her hand lifted, a silent command to the guard stationed near the door. Kane moved instantly, placing himself between them and Lyra. His growl reverberated through the chamber, low and primal. The guards hesitated. None dared challenge an alpha in defense mode, but the damage was done. Lyra's heart slammed against her ribs. She could feel the mark heating again, pulsing faster with every breath, reacting to her fear, her anger, her pain. The room shimmered faintly, the torches flickering, though there was no wind. The elder saw it too. "You see?" she hissed. "Even now. It grows unstable." Kane turned toward her, his eyes flashing gold. "Enough!" A deafening sound cut him off, a horn's call echoing through the valley. The guard stiffened. Another horn answered, closer this time, the rival tribes. The Bloodfang and Ironhide packs had come under the lunar shadow. The council scrambled to their feet, shouting orders. Outside, howls rose in the distance, dozens of them closing in fast. Kane spun toward Lyra. "Stay behind me, no matter what happens." But the mark on her arm pulsed again, stronger than before, alive, demanding. She shook her head. "You know I can't." Outside, chaos reigned. The Dark Moon warriors poured into the clearing, forming ranks beneath the rising lunar glow. The enemy wolves emerged from the tree line, silver eyes gleaming, fangs bared, their war paint catching the moonlight like blood. And at their center stood the Bloodfang Alpha, tall, scarred, his presence radiating command. "Kane of Dark Moon," he shouted, "you harbor the Marked One. Hand her over and we will spare your bloodline." The warriors behind Kane growled, their voices a thunderous wall of defiance. But Lyra saw the flicker of hesitation in their eyes, the same fear she'd seen in the councils. Kane's voice was steel. "No one touches her." The Bloodfang Alpha laughed, a sound like bones breaking. "Then you choose death." He raised his hand. The world exploded. Wolves shifted mid-air, fur, claws, fangs tearing through the moonlight. Battle cries filled the clearing. The air turned to fire and motion and blood. Lyra barely had time to move before a Bloodfang warrior lunged at her, claws flashing. Kane met him in mid-leap, slamming him to the ground with a snarl. His eyes flicked back to her, a flash of command, of warning. "Stay back." But the mark had other plans. It burned through her skin, her veins, her bones. The sound around her dimmed, the clash of steel, the howls, even the screams, all drowned beneath the roar of something ancient awakening. The moon above flared red, time fractured. She saw Kane fall, claws raking across his chest, his body hitting the ground hard. A snarl tore from her throat, not human, not wolf, something in between. The mark erupted in blinding silver fire. It ripped through the clearing like lightning. Wolves were thrown backward, weapons melted in their hands, the ground itself cracking beneath her feet. The air shimmered with energy so pure it made the moon itself dim. When the light faded, silence fell. Dozens lay unconscious. The trees around them were scorched, the air humming with residual power. Cain was on the ground, barely breathing, but alive. The energy had curved around him like a shield. Lyra's hands trembled. The mark still glowed faintly, but the heat inside her had cooled to ash. The others stared at her. Warriors, council members, even the enemy. And in their eyes, she saw no gratitude. Fear. Real, bone-deep, soul-cutting fear. Someone whispered it first. "She's the destroyer." The word spread like wildfire. Cain pushed himself to his feet, blood streaking his chest. His voice cracked through the silence. "She saved us." But no one listened. The crowd began to retreat from her, step by step, as if her shadow might burn them too. Lyra's throat closed. "Cain." He turned to her. For the first time since she met him, he hesitated. The alpha mask cracked, torn between duty and something far more dangerous. Her voice was barely a whisper. "You think they're wrong?" He didn't answer, and that silence broke her more than any blade could. The wolves around them began to shift, growling, encircling her. Cain raised a hand. "Stop! She's not—" The iron-haired elder's voice cut him off. "Alpha Cain, stand down. If you protect her, you defy the council's will." Cain's chest heaved. "Then the council can burn." The elder's eyes narrowed. "Then you will burn with her." It was too much. The air, the weight, the judgment. Lyra felt something snap. She turned, bolting into the forest before anyone could stop her. Branches tore at her skin. Her heart pounded in her throat. Behind her, Cain's voice echoed, calling her name, but she didn't stop, not this time. The night swallowed her whole. Hours passed before the howling faded behind her. She ran until her lungs ached, until the forest gave way to the black river that cut through the valley like a scar. She fell to her knees at its edge, gasping, trembling. The moonlight shimmered across the water, red still, faintly bleeding into silver. Her reflection stared back, eyes too bright, marks glowing like molten metal beneath her skin. "What am I?" she whispered. The river answered in ripples. The mark pulsed again, but this time it wasn't rage, it was sorrow. Deep, ancient sorrow. Memories that weren't hers flickered behind her eyes. Wars fought under broken moons, blood spilled by those who feared what they couldn't control. And through it all, one truth pulsed in her chest. They would never stop hunting her. But she wasn't running anymore. Lyra rose slowly. The forest wind wrapped around her, carrying the scent of smoke, of war, of destiny closing in. She could still feel Cain somewhere far behind her, torn between her and his tribe. Her fingers brushed the mark. The warmth steadied her. No more hiding, no more fear. If the world wanted to see the destroyer, then it would see what destruction truly meant. The moon shifted above, clouds parting, painting her in silver light. The river shimmered as if bowing to her will, and from deep within the forest, wolves began to howl again, not in challenge this time, but in answer. Lyra turned toward the sound. Her eyes gleamed like liquid silver. The hunt had become the storm. The world has chosen its flame. And she has chosen to burn. The war has only just begun. The forest had softened in the early hours, a muted grey beneath the dying blood moon. Mist clung to the ground like silk, curling around gnarled roots and hidden stones. Lyra's breath fogged in front of her, ragged, uneven, each inhale a reminder of the chase, the fear, the endless night behind her. She moved carefully along the stream, the water's rush barely louder than her heartbeat. Her arms ached from running, her legs trembled from exhaustion, and yet a part of her refused to stop. Defiance was all she had left, and then she heard it, a sound that made her pause, her muscles tensing like coiled steel. Footsteps on stone, deliberate, quiet, close enough to feel, but far enough to make her wonder. Her hand rose to her mark, the silver lines pulsing faintly beneath her skin, reacting to something she didn't yet understand. "You can't hide from me. a voice whispered through the mist. Lyra spun. There he was. Kane. Tall, silent, commanding, but softer than she expected. His gold eyes caught the dim light like molten fire. His hair, wet from the mist, clung to his jawline. His expression was wary, yet there was a tenderness that made her chest ache in a way she couldn't name. "I'm not hiding," she snapped, though her voice shook. "From me?" His lips quivered, a small, knowing smile. "Or from yourself?" She wanted to argue, to turn and run again, but her legs refused. She knew he would catch her again, as he always did, and maybe part of her wanted him to. Kane stepped closer. The mist swirled between them, curling like smoke around the muscles in his arms, around the quiet power in his stance. His hand hovered near her shoulder, hesitant, unsure if she would flinch or allow it. "I'm not here to fight," he said softly. "Not tonight." Lyra's eyes darted to the waterfall cascading behind him, the hidden cave barely visible in the shadows. Water hit stone with a rhythm both chaotic and soothing. The cave smelled of wet moss and minerals, of earth that had seen centuries pass. Something about the place grounded her, the only steady thing in a night filled with storms. Kane crouched beside her, brushing a strand of damp hair from her face. "You shouldn't be out here alone, not after everything." She glared at him. "I don't need you to protect me." "Do you think that's what I came for?" His voice dropped lower, intimate, a rumble that brushed against her skin. "I came because I can't leave you here. Not like this. Not like you've been living. Not like the world expects you to be something you're not." The confession made her stomach twist. She had never had anyone speak to her like that. Not with understanding, not with care that didn't sting with pity. Her voice was barely audible. I don't know how to trust anyone." He tilted his head, studying her. Every scar, every line of tension in her body, every flicker of hesitation in her gaze. He saw it all. "Then don't," he said quietly. "Not yet. But I'm not leaving. You'll see me again, Lyra. And maybe then you'll decide if I'm worth the risk." She wanted to look away, to run. But she couldn't. She felt it too. That pull, that thread connecting her to him in a way that didn't make sense. A bond older than the night they'd shared together. They moved inside the cave, the roar of the waterfall dimming to a steady bass, a heartbeat for the quiet they both needed. She sank to the stone floor, hugging her knees, shivering from cold and exhaustion, and the echo of adrenaline still thrumming through her body. Kane knelt across from her, careful not to crowd her, careful to let her have space she hadn't had in years. He produced a small bundle of herbs, laying them between them on the stone floor. The scent was heady, lavender, sage, and something she couldn't place but made her feel safe. "I want to tell you why I've never trusted anyone either," he said after a long pause. "My mate, she was gone before I even knew love could exist. The Bloodfang struck our pack when I was young. I couldn't save her. My mother, my family, everyone I ever tried to protect, they paid the price for my mistakes. And now this prophecy, it's like a shadow I can't outrun. I've lost so much, Lyra. His voice faltered, a rare crack in the armor he always wore. Lyra's chest tightened. She had never heard a man admit such vulnerability before, especially not one so formidable, so untouchable in the eyes of the world. She felt a stirring of empathy, a connection she couldn't explain. I know what it feels like," she whispered, her voice breaking. "To be rejected, to be exiled from everything you've ever wanted to belong to. When my pack realized the mark appeared on me, they called me a monster. My mate, he said he couldn't touch me, that I was cursed. I ran for years, Kane, always running, always hiding, always praying I wouldn't be found." He shifted closer, his hand lifted slowly, hesitating over her shoulder. Every nerve in her body screamed in warning, but every heartbeat whispered a different truth. Maybe, just maybe, she could trust him. "I've seen enough to know you're not a curse," he said softly. "Not you. You're not destruction. You're..." the storm that wakes the world, the fire that brings life, not death. And he swallowed hard. I don't know what I'd do if anything happened to you. The words left her breathless. The tension between them thickened, a magnetic pull that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with longing. Their eyes met. Lyra's wolf stirred inside her, twitching, restless, aware of the danger and the intimacy all at once. Kane's gaze was steady, unwavering, fierce yet tender. He reached out, cupping her face. His thumb brushed along her cheekbone, gentle enough to calm, deliberate enough to anchor her. You're not alone anymore, he whispered. She trembled beneath his touch. It was as though every wall she had built in her life, every defense, every scar, was unraveling in that single gesture. She wanted to close the distance, to let the kiss happen, to fall into something both terrifying and irresistible. And for a heartbeat she almost did. But then the ground beneath them rumbled. The cave shook, dust falling from the ceiling. The waterfall's roar escalated into a deafening roar, echoing in the chamber like some ancient beast awakening. Her mark flared again, reacting to the tremors, the power of the mountain, the prophecy whispering from the stones. Lyra pulled back instinctively, heart hammering. It's happening again. Kane's hand stayed near her face, but he leaned back slightly, giving her space while still radiating protection. I know. That's why you can't give in to it yet. Not fully. Not until you understand what it is you're capable of. I'll be here. Every step. Her chest rose and fell, her mind spinning. The intimacy of the moment, the brush of his warmth, the sound of his voice. It had cracked her like ice, but the tremor beneath her skin reminded her that danger was never far. The power within her was alive, awake, and patient, demanding she master it. She could feel its pulse, syncopated with the mountains, with the prophecies, with something deeper, something that stretched into eternity. She swallowed. I don't know if I can trust myself, or them, or even you. Kane's eyes softened. A rare vulnerability behind the intensity. Then trust me enough to let me help you, nothing more, nothing less. And if you decide I'm wrong, you walk away. You choose your own path. But right now, I won't let you face this alone. The moment stretched, suspended in the mist of the waterfall's roar and the tremor of the earth beneath them. Lyra felt the ache of solitude, of fear, of longing, and something else. A pull, magnetic and undeniable, toward the man who had saved her life more than once. She didn't move closer, not yet, but she didn't run either. He leaned in, his breath mingling with hers. The cave seemed to hold its breath, waiting. For a heartbeat, it was just them. The storm outside, the power within her, the memory of exile, all suspended in fragile equilibrium, and then the tremor deepened. Lyra's mark pulsed stronger, veins of silver glowing along her skin, a soft hum vibrating through her bones. It was no longer just a symbol of destiny. It was alive, insistent, whispering secrets she couldn't yet hear. Kane's eyes flicked to it, sharp and alert, but he didn't flinch. Instead, he whispered, I'll be here. You don't have to face it alone. Lyra's wolf stirred violently. Her chest heaved. The storm within her demanded release. And though she wanted to lean into him, to give in to the warmth and connection, and the fleeting promise of something tender, she stayed still, tethered by fear, caution, and the weight of the prophecy. The power inside her pulsed again, slower now, settling like embers beneath her skin. The cave was silent once more, save for the waterfall, the tremor fading, and the quiet rhythm of two hearts daring to inch closer, fragile but unwilling to let go. Her lips parted slightly, as though to speak, to say something she couldn't. Kane's hand lingered near her face, unwavering, patient, a promise of understanding without demand. And in that suspended silence, Lyra realized trust wasn't a choice she could make lightly. But maybe she could start by letting someone in, by letting Kane stay, by letting herself feel, and for the first time in her life she didn't look away. The cave held its breath, the silver mark pulsing faintly, the waterfall roaring quietly behind them, and the night beyond waiting for the storm to truly awaken. The heart learns trust in small moments, not in grand gestures, not in battles or prophecy, but in quiet, in the storm's calm eye, and in the space between fear and desire. The forest air had turned bitter again. The mist that once caressed the cave now clung like a shroud. Lyra could feel it, the weight of eyes she hadn't seen, footsteps she hadn't heard. The calm she had found with Cain dissolved like smoke. Before she could react, the ground shook beneath them. The hidden cave, their sanctuary, was no longer theirs. From the shadows, dark moon warriors emerged, weapons glinting in the dim morning light. Their faces were stern, hard, eyes devoid of the warmth she had glimpsed in Cain's gaze. "Cain!" she shouted, but his expression was unreadable. His stance was tense, rigid, the alpha mask firmly in place. Chains, silver-threaded with ancient runes, snatched at their ankles, binding them before they could fight. The cold metal bit into her skin. She struggled, heart hammering. "You brought her here," a voice accused, cold as winter stone. The council had arrived, 5 elders circling, torches in hand, their shadows long and accusing. "You've deceived us, Alpha Cain. She is not the ally you claim. She is the danger we feared." Lyra's stomach sank. Every step, every breath, every quiet hope she had nurtured with Cain felt like it had been built on sand. Her eyes found Cain's. Gold stared back at her, conflicted, torn. But he said nothing, not a word, not a whisper. His silence was heavier than the chains, heavier than the fear. One of Cain's closest warriors, his beta, the one he trusted above all, stepped forward. The glint of betrayal in his eyes made Lyra's blood run cold. "She is of the Silver Fang lineage," the beta revealed, voice loud, cutting through the tension. "The prophecy was never a blessing. She was born to bring ruin, the marked one, the child of the silver flame. She cannot be controlled." Lyra froze. Her heart felt like it had been split in two. Betrayal wrapped around her like a vice. Cain's jaw tightened, but still. Silence. The council's voices rose in unison, a storm of accusation. "Execution," they shouted. "The tribe will not fall for deception. She must have ended." Her chest was constricted. The words echoed like hammers striking bone. The air shimmered around her, heat rising from the mark on her arm. The silver lines pulsed, hungry, alive. She looked at Cain again. His eyes were wide, conflicted, but still he said nothing. "You were never my savior," she whispered, voice breaking. "You were my cage." The chains rattled as she struggled, but she barely felt them. A fire ignited in her chest, a light that had been dormant, simmering under fear and betrayal and heartbreak. Her breath came in ragged bursts. The mark flared. Silver fire erupted from her skin, threading along her veins, coiling around her arms like living serpents of light. It spread rapidly, consuming her clothes, her chains, the stone floor beneath her. The temple walls quivered, as if the very building feared her awakening. Lyra's vision blurred with tears and silver light. The warriors screamed, stumbling back, shields melting under the radiance. The elders bellowed their terror, but no sound reached her ears. Only the roar of power that had waited lifetimes to be unleashed. Cain moved toward her, his hand outstretched. "Lyra." She turned her gaze on him, eyes blazing, voice raw with pain. "No, stay back. You didn't fight for me. You let them cage me, betray me, and watch my life hang by a thread." The waterfall of silver energy spiraled outward, sending sparks across the stone pillars. Dust and debris filled the air. The floor cracked, fissures racing across the temple like lightning. Her wolf stirred violently inside her. The instinct was pure, unfiltered, demanding release, demanding vengeance. Every memory of exile, of betrayal, of shame and rejection fueled the blaze. Lyra's chest heaved. She screamed, Not human, not wolf, but something in between, something ancient, something primal. The council scrambled to maintain distance. The beta who betrayed her tripped over a broken stone, cursing and backing away, his confidence shattered. Kane's eyes glowed gold, but still he approached cautiously, his hand steady in the air. "Lyra, control it," she laughed, bitter and shivering. "Control? Control is what they've stolen from me my whole life. Control is why I hid, why I ran, why I believed in lies. Control is why I trusted you. And now, it ends." The silver fire surged. It wrapped around her like a storm, filling the temple with blinding, searing light. Every surface reflected it, every stone, every shard of metal, every terrified face of the warriors and elders. Kane stopped at the edge of the blaze, his silhouette etched in gold and shadow. His voice, strained but commanding, carried across the fire. "Lyra, listen to me. Don't destroy yourself." But she didn't. She couldn't. Not now. Not when betrayal had clawed into her soul like a pack of wolves. Not when the world had labeled her a monster. Not when Kane, the one she thought she could trust, had failed to shield her. She raised her arms, the silver flames shooting outward, licking the walls, consuming the torches. The mark on her arm blazed hotter than the sun reflected on ice. Sparks cascaded like rain, and the temple roof trembled, chunks of stone falling away. The elders screamed, their voices drowned in the hum of raw power. Lyra's wolf leaped to the forefront, howling, her voice blending with the roar of silver fire. The energy was alive, sentient, and angry, furious at centuries of oppression, at the chains that had bound her, at the lies she had been fed. She felt every heartbeat in the room, every thrum of fear, every surge of awe, and her own, pounding like thunder in her chest. Through the inferno, Kane's voice cut again, lower, trembling, raw. "Lyra, you're not a monster, not ever." She didn't answer. She couldn't. The betrayal, the hurt, the rage had eclipsed all else. And then, just as suddenly as it had erupted, the fire settled. The light dimmed to silver embers, swirling gently around her skin, leaving scorch marks in the stone, smoke curling upward like the remnants of a shattered world. The temple lay in ruin. The council stared in disbelief, their authority reduced to ash and echo. The beta who betrayed Kane lay unconscious, overwhelmed by the power he had so cavalierly revealed. Lyra sank to her knees, trembling, tears streaming down her face. The silver fire faded to a soft glow on her skin, pulsing like a heartbeat. Her breath came in ragged gasps. Kane finally stepped close. His hand hovered near her shoulder. Trembling, hesitant. "Lyra, She pulled back, trembling. "You don't get to speak. You were never my savior. You were my cage." He swallowed, eyes shadowed with guilt, regret, and something deeper. A longing she didn't allow herself to acknowledge. I tried to protect you. No." Her voice was a whip, cutting through the thick, smoky air. "You let them decide my fate. You let them tell me who I am. You let them betray me. You don't get to speak." Kane's shoulders slumped, the weight of his failure etched across his features. For the first time, he looked human, fallible, broken, desperate. And that broke her even further. Lyra rose slowly, the embers on her arms dimming but still warm. She turned away from him, chest heaving, wolf growling low and warning. The temple, once a place of tradition and power, lay in ruins behind her. The echoes of betrayal followed her like shadows in the night. She didn't speak, she didn't look back, she only ran. Betrayal cuts deeper than fangs. Trust shattered, hearts broken, fire unleashed, and in the ashes, a new storm begins. Lyra's world has ended, and yet, in that destruction, something else waits. The storm of silver fire, of wrath, of destiny, has only just begun. The ruins of the council chamber lay like the skeleton of a forgotten giant, shattered stone and splintered wood scattered across the floor. Smoke curled into the sky, rising from the remnants of torches and fallen beams, painting the air with the scent of ash and betrayal. Lyra stood in the center, chest heaving, arms trembling with adrenaline, her silver mark still glowing faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat that refused to be silenced. She breathed deeply, tasting the acrid tang of destruction, the remnants of screams and shock hanging in the air. Her wolf stirred inside her, powerful, hungry, insistent. Every instinct screamed for freedom, for release, for reckoning. From the shadows, the first of the shadow beasts emerged. Their forms were jagged and dark, eyes glinting like shards of obsidian, sinew, rippling under fur as black as midnight. They hissed and growled, drawn to the raw energy radiating from her mark. Lyra's stomach twisted, but fear had no purchase here. Only fury, only the fire that had been building for lifetimes. She stepped forward, shoulders squared, chest lifting with defiance. The silver light from her mark flared stronger, illuminating her face with an ethereal glow. Her hands clenched into fists, trembling from the surge of power but unwavering. "I am not your sacrifice," she whispered, voice low and feral, carrying across the rubble like a command. "I am not your weapon. I am not your prisoner. I am the storm, the fire, the silver flame that will not be contained." The shadow beast lunged. Lyra's body moved before thought could reach her, a blur of silver light and sinew. Her claws extended, long and sharp, humming with energy as she struck the first beast. The air cracked as her silver flames wrapped around it, consuming its dark essence, leaving only a scorched echo where it had stood. The second beast came faster, its growl a low rumble that vibrated in her chest. Lyra spun, talons slicing through the air, her fur glinting under the blood moon's lingering light. Her wolf form was emerging now, her body stretching, muscles shifting, the energy of generations coursing through her veins. She roared, a sound that was part human, part wolf, and entirely commanding. The creatures faltered. They had sensed the power before, the prophecy, the marked one. But they had not expected her. Not like this. Not with her flames burning brighter than the moon's reflection on ice. Kane's voice cut through the chaos, strong and unwavering. "Lyra!" She turned, momentarily distracted by the sight of him emerging from the shadows. He moved with the precision of a warrior born to command, his golden eyes wide with awe, not fear. You're incredible," he said, voice trembling slightly. This is not destruction. This is salvation." Lyra's heart faltered, a flicker of vulnerability amidst the storm. But the shadow beasts pressed on, relentlessly, and the world demanded action. She leapt, claws striking, silver fire roaring around her. Each beast that fell only fueled her energy, the mark on her arm now glowing as if the mountain itself had lent her strength. Her wolf form now fully emerged, regal, majestic, fierce, fur glowing with lunar silver, eyes flashing like molten metal. Every sinew, every claw, every movement radiated divine energy. Kane joined her side, his presence steady, protective. The air between them pulsed with unspoken understanding, the trust they had begun to build cemented in the crucible of battle. His hands glowed with protective runes, striking at the shadow beasts, creating arcs of light that met hers in brilliant displays of power. Together, they moved as one. Lyra's flames swept across the corrupted ground, consuming the darkness, purifying it. The air shimmered with heat and light, the smoke twisting into patterns that danced across the chamber like spirits freed from chains. The shadow beasts hissed and screamed as the silver fire licked their forms, their dark essence unraveling under the purity of her power. She could feel every heartbeat in the chamber, every pulse of fear, every spark of hope. And she realized that the prophecy had been twisted, misunderstood. She was not the bringer of ruin. She was the force that cleansed it, the power that restored balance. One by one, the beasts fell back, dissolving into shadows that fled before her brilliance. Lyra's chest heaved, her claws retracting as the energy began to calm, settling into a gentle, radiant hum. Her fur shifted back, human features softening, yet the silver light remained, glowing faintly along her arms, a reminder of the power she now fully owned. Cain approached cautiously, hand outstretched, golden eyes filled with reverence and awe. "Lyra, you're not a curse," he breathed. "You're not their destroyer, you're their salvation. You've saved more than this temple. You've saved them all." Lyra looked at him, chest heaving, sweat and ash coating her skin, her hair matted with mist and firelight. The rage and grief from betrayal still lingered, but now they were tempered by clarity, by purpose, by the undeniable truth of her own power. She whispered, voice shaking, "I've been everything they feared. I've been everything they wanted to break, but I am me. I am not their weapon. I am not their sacrifice." Cain stepped closer, placing a hand gently over hers, over the glowing mark. "Then let them see it," he said softly, almost reverently. "Let them see who you truly are. And I'll be here, Lyra. Always." The chamber seemed to respond to her power, stone trembling, light cascading across broken walls, dust spiraling like silver snow. The shadow beasts had fled, but the energy of her transformation lingered, humming like a living heartbeat. She inhaled, feeling the pulse of the world beneath her, the prophecy now clear in her mind. It had never demanded destruction, it demanded awakening, and she had answered. Cain stood beside her, a silent promise in the chaos. Together, they surveyed the ruin and the light, the smoke curling like a crown over her head, and the world, for the first time, seemed wide open, waiting for her to claim it. And in that moment, Lyra understood fully. She was not a monster, she was not a pawn, she was the storm, the flame, the silver moon rising in her veins, and nothing, no counsel, no betrayal, no shadow beast, could ever take that from her again. Power is not given, power is claimed, and sometimes the fire that burns within is the only force capable of saving everything you love. They called her cursed. Whispers of fear had followed her since birth, threading through every corner of her life like poison in water. Eyes had turned, fangs had been bared, and every chain that bound her heart had been invisible, but no less heavy. They feared her power. Every silver flash, every pulse of flame under her skin, every instinct she could not yet tame, had been met with screams of terror, judgment, and rejection. Every pack she had loved, every hand she had trusted, had betrayed her. The mark had burned for centuries, not just on her arm, but on her soul. But she rose anyway. From the ashes of betrayal, from the fire of hatred and fear, Lyra stepped into her own. The silver fire had cleansed the shadows around her, leaving her unbroken, radiant, unstoppable. She was more than prophecy, more than legend, more than the whispers of terrified elders. She was herself, a storm incarnate, burning brighter than the moon itself. Her eyes, glowing with the fury and wisdom of her wolf, scanned the ruins of the temple. She had faced betrayal, death, fear, and doubt, and she had not flinched. She had claimed the power that the world tried to deny her, and in that claim, she had discovered something more, that no cage, no fear, no prophecy could define her. Only she could. A pause. The world seems to hold its breath. The smoke swirls, the echoes of destruction fade, and Lyra's chest rises and falls with the rhythm of newfound strength. Would you have chosen her? Or feared her too? Could you stand by the girl who had been hunted, who had been called a monster, and watch her rise? Could you see the power, the fire, the destiny within her without turning away? Her silver flames pulsed faintly in the remnants of the temple, casting shadows that danced like spirits, warning and promise all at once. The night whispered her name, carrying it to every ear brave enough to listen, asking silently, Are you with her or against her? If this story lit something inside you, a spark, a fire, a heartbeat racing with the thrill of Lyra's rise, don't let it fade. Subscribe to Moonlight Mate Stories, where every full moon brings another tale that burns, another story that claws at your heart and refuses to let go. Because here, in the shadows, under the silver glow of the moon, we tell tales that don't just entertain. They ignite, they awaken, they burn, and Lyra's story is only just beginning. The first light of dawn stretched across the horizon, painting the sky with bruised purples and soft, trembling golds. Smoke from the battle still lingered in the air, curling in silvered wisps, catching the early light like ghosts of what had just been. Cain knelt beside her, chest pressed lightly against her back, as though he could anchor her to the world, keep her steady. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of all they had survived. His eyes, normally fierce, were soft, raw with awe, with love, and with something that had been buried under decades of duty and grief. Lyra's breath came in slow, deliberate gasps, her chest rising and falling as she tried to tame the fire still thrumming beneath her skin. Her eyes, glowing faintly with silver remnants of her power, scanned the horizon, the ruined temple, the forest beyond. For a moment, the chaos seemed to fall away, leaving only the quiet, heavy, sacred, and trembling with possibility. She whispered, voice soft, but carrying the weight of everything that had been lost, everything she had claimed. It's over. But even as the words left her lips, the earth groaned. A deep, resonant rumble rolled through the forest, shaking leaves from the trees, sending birds into frantic flight. The stone beneath their feet vibrated, subtle at first, then insistent, as though the world itself was speaking in a language only the market could understand. Cain's hand tightened over hers instinctively. Lyra? His voice was low, cautious, a thread of concern and wonder entwined. From the shadows, hidden beneath jagged cliffs and twisted roots, a voice rose, unfamiliar, commanding, and steeped in ancient power. She is not the only one with the mark. The words echoed through the ruins, reverberating off broken stone and across the trembling forest. They were a promise. They were a warning. They were a secret that had waited centuries to reveal itself. Lyra's ears twitched, catching the faintest vibration of energy behind the voice. Her wolf stirred within her, nostrils flaring, instincts awakening to something older than any prophecy she had known. A shiver ran down her spine, anticipation, fear, and something dangerously thrilling all at once. Cain's hand lifted, brushing her hair back from her face, and his gaze held hers. Whatever it is, we face it together, he whispered, though his own pulse raced with the weight of the unknown. The forest stilled again, but tension lingered like smoke that refused to dissipate. Every shadow seemed alive, every leaf a whisper, every stone a heartbeat. Lyra's mark pulsed softly, syncing with the rhythm of the land, the pulse of life and prophecy entwined. A lone howl split the morning air, distant, mournful, and warning all at once. The sound resonated through the hills and valleys, calling out to every hidden corner, carrying a single, undeniable truth. This was not the end. It had never been the end. Lyra stood slowly, her silhouette framed by the breaking dawn, silver fire faintly glowing along her arms. Cain rose beside her, shadow and light moving in perfect alignment, and together they faced the ruins, the forest, the world, wide open, dangerous, and waiting. And as the wind swept through the shattered temple and across the trembling trees, the faint echo of that shadowed voice lingered in their ears. The true Alpha hasn't risen yet. A heartbeat, another heartbeat, the howl of the moon. The world held its breath, and Lyra knew, deep in her bones, that the story was far from over. And so the night fades into dawn, but the fire within never dies. Lyra has claimed her power, faced betrayal, and stood unbroken against the darkness. She reminds us all, That even when the world calls us cursed, even when fear tries to chain our hearts, we can rise. We can burn brighter than the shadows, stronger than the doubt, and fiercer than anyone ever imagined. Remember this, wherever your own battles lie, the fire you hold inside is yours alone. Protect it, nurture it, and when the world tries to define you, stand tall and claim your destiny. The story does not end here. Every full moon, every whisper of wind through the trees, every silver flash in the dark, there is more to discover, more to fight for, and more to love. So hold on to hope, embrace your strength, and remember, your own story is waiting to be written. If Lyra's journey lit a fire inside your heart, don't forget to subscribe to Moonlight Mate Stories, where every tale burns, every heart races, and every legend comes alive under the light of the full moon. Because in this world, some fires are meant to change everything,